I'm Joshua Adams, and this is the Industry Insights Podcast, where I am joined in the Rock Paper Simple studio by community leaders as we dive into industry topics and perspectives. Thanks for joining us today. I have Debbie Thomas with WELBRO Building Corporation. You're the Director of Community Development and Marketing, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. So why don't you just share just a little bit of highlights about yourself before we dive in? You've done a lot, so I don't want to miss anything.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate you having me on. I really do enjoy doing these kinds of things and talking to people in our community. I started many, many years ago in my career as a paramedic, and that was my first career stop. I did that for 10 years until I got married and started having children. At that time, I decided to go back to school and get my teaching degree, and then I taught at Holy Trinity for 10 years. And then I took a little bit of time off from that for a couple of years and decided to get involved in politics and ran for Melbourne City Council as a councilwoman and did that in 2000 and I don't even remember now. And I did that for 8 years and just recently termed off of that. In the process of doing that, when I was out and about doing my thing as a councilwoman, I happened to meet Ken Winchall, who is the president of WELBRO Building Corporation. And him and I just started talking, and they were starting to build Hotel Melby in downtown Melbourne. And he just introduced himself and just had a great conversation. A few weeks later, he calls me up and says, "Hey, Debbie, do you think you'd be interested in coming to work for WELBRO? We want to open an office here in Melbourne on the Space Coast." I said, "Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more." So he did. And he basically said, we've been coming in and out of the Space Coast for the last 10 years. We come in, we build whatever we're going to build, and then we go back out again to our main offices are in Maitland and back in Central Florida towards Orlando. And when we do that, we don't use the sub base here locally within the community of Brevard County. So that money's not staying here. That money's going out to companies outside of this area. And he goes, "I don't like that." He goes, "If we can open an office here and you can get to know some of the companies and some of the subs that we could possibly be working with the business that we're going to be doing over here on the Space Coast, we can help keep that money here locally." And so that's where I started. And I started doing that about 3 years ago for WELBRO. I opened our office in Melbourne.
It's been 3 years already?
3 years, I know. Isn't that wild? It's been 3 years. So while I did that and I started getting some really good business in, I started to meet people even outside this area, and we started developing business even outside of Brevard County. And so my bosses approached me and said, "Hey, we'd really like to promote you, and we'd really like to see you do this over here in Central Florida and throughout, our whole organization everywhere. Can you come and do that?" So now I work a few days over here a week and a few days over in Maitland a week. And I also am the director for our marketing department as well, which is funny, but I have great people that work under me that make me look good.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So
Awesome.
I've been doing a lot, and I'm very busy, but I love being out in the community and I love meeting new people, and that's what keeps me happy.
I knew most of that, but there was some new information in there for me. Very cool. Very cool. Glad I asked the question. So when we talked about the topic for today, we both kind of zeroed in on core values. I think we both have a passion for what core values do for an organization as a tool for the leadership, and what it means for developing a culture. So that'll be our topic for today.
Terrific.
So I'd love to just dig into that a little bit more, right? And so from a core value perspective, let's just start with that. Why do you think an organization having good core values, proper core values is important?
Well, I think it goes back to who you are as a company and what you want to create and what the public perception of your company is going to be. But you can't just make it look good. You have to live it, and you have to have employees that live it as well. We've been in business for over 45 years, WELBRO has been, and they started two gentlemen, Mr. Weller and Mr. Brown, hence the WELBRO. They were in the construction industry, and at the time they said, the handshake isn't meaning anything anymore, and we don't like that, and we don't want to see our world become that. So we're going to start a company called WELBRO, and we're going to make sure we found it and we run it on great ethics and doing it the right way. So with doing that, they said, "You know what? Yes, there has to be a contract for everything that you do, but if we do a handshake with a client, we're going to mean what we say and say what we mean. We are absolutely going to stand behind what we said we're going to do." And that is what we've done for years. And we have ended up with developers who we've developed with since the early 80s that still develop with us today, and they continue to come back to us to develop the next hotel, the next school, the next big project that's coming in, because they know they can trust us, that we are going to do it the best we can possibly do it, and that we're going to make sure that it's a product that they're very proud of in the end. So because of that, when you're bringing on new employees, you have to make sure they understand the past and understand where we come from and understand who we are, because in every day, just going out and meeting people and talking to people, you've got to keep in the core values of who your company are, and you have to make sure that you're portraying that properly.
I think they become kind of guiding posts, right? In
Right.
terms of when you bring somebody in, and you're saying, this is what we stand for. This is what we represent. This is what a right person in an organization adheres to.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we want to know. But we also want to get our employees excited. We want them. And, you want to be able to capture and bring in employees that are the right fit for your company. We have employees that, our president alone, he started in the company over 35 years ago, and he started at the very bottom, has worked all the way up to the president role. He understands that. He gets that. He understands the company and what it's for, and he wants to make sure others do as well. So when we bring in new employees and they don't quite understand, and they've come from place, and maybe, in this day and age, people are hopping around from job to job a little bit more. We want them to find a place that they can land and that they know they're safe, and that we're going to help develop them, and that we're going to help make them be the best that they can be. In turn, they're going to be the best that they can possibly be for WELBRO as well.
Right. And I think by having those set core values, you're also creating a standard of expectation. So it's not changing. I know what's expected of me when it comes to how I should be approaching solutions to challenging problems, how I should behave towards other coworkers, towards clients and customers. It becomes that even set for expectations.
Yeah, it does. And I think that comes from the top down. It's very important, I think, as my role as director. I have my manager right under me, and then she has employees under her. And how I behave and how I treat her is how she behaves and she treats her employees underneath her. And that we need to make sure that we are all inclusive with one another, and that we are doing the right things. We're behaving the right way. It doesn't mean you always agree. Doesn't mean that there aren't problems that exist. Doesn't mean any of that, but it's all being responsible and handling it appropriately.
Right. No, I agree with that. I think one of the challenges I had was with developing our current core values was I had a set of 6 core values that I had created when I first started the company, when it was just me. And I said, this is what I want to build, right? And I started doing that for a while. I made a couple tweaks, but for the most part, words changed, but they still meant the same thing. For the most part, they were the same for 7-ish years. And so we sat down about 2.5, 3 years ago and said, it's time to revisit our core values and make sure that it's alignment with who our right team is. And I really struggled with changing that because there was that maybe that selfish bias of this is what I want it to be versus what does it need to be for this team and what is it? And we dug into it. And one of the core values that I had since we started was integrity. One of the reasons that was there is I had experienced some issues in a previous partnership where there wasn't integrity. I said, this has to be a foundational piece. So as we were developing our core values, we wanted to simplify. We wanted less core values. We wanted less than 6. We were thinking 4 or 5. And one of the ones I brought up was I really think do the right thing needs to be a core value. And I'll never forget one of the leaders on my team says, we can't do that. Why can't,
what is that?
I'm like,
why?
Whoa, wait. I was really worried. I mean, that was like a kick to the gut. I'm like, whoa, why? Why couldn't we? And they're like, well, I don't think we do the right thing. Again, I'm like having a little bit of a heart attack here. Yeah. And I was really speechless for probably 20 seconds, which ask my team is a long time. And so the facilitator of the session even said, well, Josh, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Give me a second. And I remember kind of taking a deep breath and looking at the leader and said, why? Like, I'm like, this isn't but I genuinely want, and there were a couple concerns they brought up. There was 2 or 3 concerns they brought up with things that had happened recently. And I'm like, whoa, okay, let's dig into those. And so they became a conversation around some of those challenges, and they were totally unintentional. They weren't like intentional integrity issues, but they were things that didn't add up from the team, right? We had said something and done another thing. Well, what I realized was our communication wasn't good. We had made a decision as a business to do something, and later, 4, 5, 6 months later, we did something else. And so from the team's perspective, we lied to them.
Right.
And I'm like, I had literally zero idea.
That's really hard. That is really, really hard because, that comes as a surprise, especially to a leader. But was that not the reason why this is so important to go through this every few years?
Yes. And so it blew me away. And I'm like, oh, time out. We're going to talk about that issue first. And we dove into it, and we actually resolved, okay, we need to go to the whole team and explain this series of events. Why did we say one thing, but then 6 months later do another thing? It never even occurred to us because we had a lot of other things happen.
Right.
Decisions were made behind closed doors, and we made a decision that made sense to us,
right,
having the whole picture. But the rest of the team, it felt deceptive.
Yeah. And that is what's extremely important. There's over 100 employees at WELBRO Building Corporation, and probably about, I don't know, half of those employees work within our Maitland office, but the other half are out on the field. And you don't have that same storytelling opportunity, for the people out in the field that you have the people in the office. And so you sort of feel like you have two different workforces when you really only have one, and you've got to be able to create that you only have one. And that's what we've come to realize. And that's why we've decided recently to take this on ourselves, and we're revamping the whole thing. But those kinds of things have come up in this discussion as well. We need to make sure that not only are we passing on the right kind of history of who we are and what we want to be and how we want to be perceived within the community, but we also need to make sure we take care of our own within, and that they're brought in and that they feel welcomed, and that, one of our core values that we're just now starting to include is curious. I mean, be curious. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to ask questions. It's no question's a dumb question. Ask the question. Maybe you'll bring up something to us that we had no idea about, and it is a great idea. Be curious. Come to us. Talk to us. Let us know what you're thinking and what you're feeling.
And core values help encourage what you want the team to step up and do, right? And so we did end up working through that. Do the right thing did become a core value, but it did allow a conversation, right? And I think if you're living core values, a lot of companies will choose core values, they throw them on the wall, and maybe in the handbook buried somewhere, and they never really bring them up again. And I think it's important that if it's real, your team will be using it. Yep. They'll be using it against you in some cases, in a good way. I remember a conversation with a team member about, I think if I'm kind of going back, it was do the right thing. And I had said, they had asked me for advice on something, and I gave a quick response. I was busy. I was doing some things. And 3 or 4 days later, they came to my office and, can we talk? Close the door. I'm like,
what's going on?
And they said, this thing that, you gave me this advice, and I don't think that's the right thing. And it was, I'm like, okay. What did I say? And we went through it. And at the end of the day, I didn't fully agree. I didn't agree. I didn't agree that what I had asked them to do was not doing the right thing.
Right.
But they didn't feel good about it at all.
Yeah.
And they're going, this does not, I feel like I'm lying. I'm like, okay, you know what? Then don't do it that way. Let's come up with a different.
Let's come up with another plan. We can do this.
Right. But I was encouraged by the whole conversation because they used the core value. That, hey, you've asked me to adhere to these core values, and I feel like this direction you just told me to go in doesn't adhere to it. Let's course correct.
Yeah.
And we did.
And the fact of the matter is that this employee trusted you, and they trusted you enough that they felt comfortable enough to talk to you. And that's half the battle.
Agreed.
That's half the battle. You need to be able to have employees that are willing to knock on your door, come in and be able to say, can we talk for a minute? I'm not understanding this. I'm not getting this. Please help me work it through in my mind. And a lot of times you can help them and get them on board with you. And then there's other times you got to step back and go, okay, this isn't working. Let's rethink this one.
Agreed. And being willing to push back and say, hey, I'm not, from what you said, it's not lining up. And I think that's good, because here's the other thing that's important with core values. You mentioned this, top down. Right. You mentioned leadership, and you mentioned that it needs to be top down. You have to also adhere to them.
You have to
you
own
can't
it.
just mandate it, right? You can't just say, hey, this is for everybody but me. And in this case, this was a kind of bringing it back and saying, hey, I don't think what you've asked me to do adheres to this.
Right.
So I think you're breaking it and then making me break it.
Right.
And so that's a good conversation to be able to have that dialogue, be able to have that healthy conflict.
Right. I think it's really important as well that we remember that, these employees, as they're coming in and they're talking to you, they're nervous. They're not exactly sure what to do. They're not exactly sure how to feel. So if you can make them feel warm and comfortable and not them, and maybe you don't understand what they're saying or where they're coming from, or maybe you don't agree as the leader, but you have to be able to have those hard conversations and explain why.
Agreed. I think, and then also making that a part of the culture. How do you make the core values a part of the culture? And I'd be curious to hear how you guys do it. I'll share one that we do. We do our UROC awards.
Okay.
And so the UROC award is passed from team member to team member to team member, right? And so the team member that won it last month gives it out this coming month, right? And when they do, they're supposed to call out core values that person they've seen in that person. And so every month you're hearing that. Every month you're hearing that. What's something you guys do?
So we have our own internal little magazine that we do for our employees that come out monthly. So my marketing team puts that together every month, and we also do an employee spotlight within there. And we pick a random employee every single month, and then we have really neat questions, and we change it up every single month. We have sort of a database of questions, and we change it up every single month to make them a little bit different. But they're very unique, special kind of questions that are fun and outside the box. And so you get to know that employee. Once again, we're over 100 employees at WELBRO. And so, a lot of the employees don't know the employees. So we make sure to add that in there. And then we also do little articles and things that have to do with each different sector. So, we have hospitality, we have education, we have industrial. Those are our three main sectors of what we build. And so we have different teams that are working within each, but they don't connect with each other. So education only works in education, hospitality only works in hospitality. So these employees are not necessarily ever getting an opportunity to work together. We also make sure that we do a bi-monthly get together. So we'll find a bowling alley or a little mini golf, or sometimes just a bar with some food and some drinks, and we all get together. Whoever wants to come can come, and we all get together and we get to catch up and chit chat and be more in a social kind of atmosphere with one another. And then, of course, we do a yearly, picnic, and then we have our Christmas and all the other holidays that we get together and do things.
Well, that's a lot of culture stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think at its heart, culture is driven by your core values, right? It's driven by the purpose of the organization, the why behind it, and I do think core values really captures that. And so you hit on a lot of great things you guys are doing to build the culture. So we kind of talked about the importance of core values and moved into culture here. How do you feel that having a strong culture at WELBRO, how do you feel that gives you guys an advantage as an organization? What advantages does that bring to the forefront?
Yeah. So WELBRO Building Corporation has always been the company that we have service excellence, and we need to make sure that that's what we're doing. We are a little bit more of an upscale builder. We don't build what we call stick construction, so we don't build wood construction as a priority. We always build through concrete that are going to be big, large, strong buildings, because we work with developers who are holding on to their property for a while. They're not building and selling and making their money off it and then going on to the next thing and building and selling. So because of that, they're an owner of something that they want to stay very nice for a very long time. And so a lot of our very large projects, we make sure that we do it the right way, and we are building it the right way. So because of that, that's what we're known for.
Gotcha. And so knowing that you have this longevity, it seems like where you're going with the idea there is, hey, we need our people to reflect that longevity thinking.
Yeah, I
right?
think so. Yeah. It's really important that they get that they understand that. And we'll say no just as many times as we'll say yes. If it's not a developer with whom we feel like we can have a constructive business partnership with them, then, it's our bosses are willing to say no and say, this isn't going to work out. We want to make sure that who we're working with have the same core values and same beliefs that we do. Because, if you're going to do something on a handshake, if we're going to say to somebody that's building $100 million project, we're going to stand beside you and we're going to make sure this is done right and it's going to be done appropriately and you're going to love this product when it's complete. You've got to have the trust in them that they're going to have your back as well, and that they're going to do the right things on their end, because we have a lot of employees that are counting on that from us as a company. Right. So we're just as choosy as developers are choosy of their GC. So I think that's what makes us stand out a little bit more than the average. We started, back in, I want to say, the early 1980s, building hotels with one of the largest developers over in Orlando. He has the majority of hotels over there, and we've built every product for him ever since. And Champions Gate is one of them, and it's a very nice, beautiful product that we've done over there. So we're very proud of that, and we know that's a great working relationship. And he knows what he's going to get out of us, and we know what he's going to get out of us. So we love doing that. And another big developer who we work with, we typically only work in the state of Florida. But if we've worked with a developer for a long time and they like what they see from us and they want to stay with us as their builder, sometimes they go out of state. So we have built over in Colorado. That's the furthest west that we've ever gone, and that was an $800 million project at the time, and a very large one. But we wouldn't do that typically for just
Right.
anybody. That is what a developer we've worked with for a very, very long time and have a great relationship with. So we've been in New Orleans, we've been in Tennessee, we've been a little bit of everywhere building our hospitality, but that's not normal for us. Majority of our projects are here in Florida.
So we've hit on how core values and culture are utilized in a business organization, how you guys are really living that. But let's talk a bit about how core values and what you hold yourself to affects our daily living, right? Whether that be our just personal lives or it be our job, like in your case, right, where your job is to go out and develop business and develop community and from the marketing side lens of things. But how do you hold yourself to a higher standard in what you do day to day?
Right. Well, I think that's extremely important. I think we're all growing as we go, right? I really try, every morning I get up and I, put my little crown on my head and say, okay, we got this. We're going to go. We're going to get this. This is going to be a great day. And I think we all have to remember that we all do that. Sometimes we have to look in the mirror. We have days where you have to go, I'm great. I'm wonderful. I'm good. I can do this. Everybody needs to have a little bit of pump up. So in doing that, I do that for myself, but I always try to remember that for others. So whether it's dealing with another employee, whether it's dealing with a boss, whether it's dealing with somebody that's going to be coming into my office that could possibly be a client, I always try to remember this person has something that's going on in their life that I have no idea about, and something is going on, and I need to be kind. I need to be gracious, and I need to let them know that I'm a safe place and that, what, that is who I am and that is what I stand for. So I take that outside and I make sure to do that in my job. Family is everything to me. My whole family is what I wake up for every single morning. So because of that, I think of this marketing employee that I have in my organization who's the same age as my daughter. If my daughter's out at her job, I certainly hope she has somebody like me that's there and pumping her up and making her feel good and giving her the confidence that she needs to be the best that she could possibly be. And that's my goal every day when I get up and I go to work. I always want to make somebody's day brighter, something good happen, something great come out of the day. And then by doing that, I think that I help other people. I think that I bring more business to our company just by being authentic.
I love that. I love that. And I think by establishing this is what I stand for, it does help a lot. My wife and I did an exercise recently where we sat down and said, what's our family mission statement? What's our family core values? What do we stand for, right? As a couple. And that's a lot of fun, I will say, so we literally spent an afternoon one weekend and just said, okay, let's write these things down. And we did it as part of a larger exercise where we actually set some goals and we
That's terrific.
did a lot of other things, but actually defining some core values for ourselves was really interesting because it made us really think. Because if we started with, okay, what are yours? What are mine? What do we think they are?
Yeah.
Right. And okay, where do they line up and where are they different?
How did that come out? Were they the same? Were they not the same?
There was a lot of similar. There was a lot of just worded different ways.
Yeah.
There were some that we weren't sure about, right? Okay, I wrote that and she wrote that. Those are different. Neither one of us had it on the list, but I think I could get on board with that, right? And so I think—
Isn't that what marriage is all about?
Exactly.
Isn't that what marriage is?
Oh,
I can guarantee if my husband and I did it, we probably have two totally, completely different lists.
We had some that were and some that weren't. And we started going through that and kind of build, kind of trying to trim it down, right? Because we ended up with too many. And we trimmed it down and trimmed it down and trimmed it down and feel really good about what we came up with. And then kind of a vision statement, a mission statement for what we were trying to do in life. And that was really cool. And kind of digging into that and what are we trying to do with that? And what we came up with was love God, love people, have fun. That's
terrific.
what we came up with for that. And she's probably going to kill me for sharing that with everybody, but
that's terrific.
That was really the high level, right? And then we came up with core values under that. I'm not sharing those. Those are
that's yours.
That's ours, but it was just really, it was a really cool exercise. And so I know a lot of people that are brand nerds or culture, really big into business culture. And I encourage you, if you haven't done it, try it.
I need to do that. That would be fun.
It's a lot of fun. And we actually, I actually used a book as a guide for it. It's called the Family Meeting. And it was just a guide. It's just kind of a guide. We totally did it a different way, but I used that as the initial guide. And it was really kind of cool how it kind of walked you through the steps and whatnot. But that was kind of a cool experience we had recently with kind of exploring that for us as a family.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think that can carry on in your day to day, even outside of your own family. And that is what I try to do. I know with my team alone, when I, am talking to them and relating with them, I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel good. It doesn't mean I'm not their boss. It doesn't mean that we don't have to get things done. It doesn't mean the day to day things that are not the most fun things to do have to happen. They do. But that doesn't mean you have to do it like, oh, here we go again. You can do it with fun and you can do it and make it fun. And my group, they're doing proposals. They're doing a lot of proposals. And these proposals, especially for education, can really get long and hard and drawn out. And you've got to get a lot of people's input. And so you're asking a lot of questions from a lot of different people. And you're trying, to pull things. Some people give answers quick, some people don't. And you have to be able to deal with both those two people with a smile on your face and be able to get through it. So they're so good at doing that. But I know at the end of the day, some days they're like, oh my gosh, please, come on. I'm like, all right, let's go out and have a drink. Let's go. Come on, take them out and then be able to just little things for me, sending a nice little email, sending a nice little note, thank you for what you do. I know that was hard and I know we got through it. You did great work. I really appreciate it. Just very simple things. Those things mean something to other people. And I know when I receive something like that, I walk away going, oh, I feel really good. Yeah. So I want somebody else to make sure that they feel that exact same way. And then you know what? That's how you retain employees. They have to know that they're worthy and that what they're doing is important and that this organization would not run without the work that they do, which is true. Every single one of those 100 employees that are working for WELBRO all have something different that they're doing and they're providing and that they're bringing not only to us as a company, but to our clients and making them feel like, you're important and we understand and we see you and we see what you're doing. Thank you very much. That's important. And I think I bring a little bit of that to our company. I think I hope to bring a little bit of that to our company.
I love that. One thing we did when we sat down, I told you we sat down a few years ago and said, let's redefine a lot of this. One of the things we had to come up with was a purpose statement. And what do we at the end of the day, what's our why? Right? Why are we doing the way we're doing? And I went back and I was reflecting on why did I start the company? And there was one desire to create be able to impact the community. There was a desire to build a better type of agency that didn't take advantage of people. I'd seen a lot of that. There was a desire to win together with a group and with the team. And so as we were kind of reflecting on that, really came down to it was people, right? At the end of the day, we do marketing and we do these things, right? We make videos and we make websites and we do branding, we do design and we do all these things, but why, right? At the end of the day, we wanted to do it to make a better agency for the people who work here and to deliver results and create a better economic situation for our clients. And on top of that, we realized we wanted to have a better community. That's people too. And so it was kind of realized it was all about this. And it's like, why are we doing this? And really came out to because people matter.
Yeah.
And so that's really been our purpose statement for several years now. At the end of the day, why do we do what we do?
Right.
Why do we do we do excellent in these areas? Why do we make sure we deliver an excellent product? Why do we make sure we don't oversell ourselves? Why do we make sure that we take care of our team and we're doing all of these things? Because people matter, right? And so I think it's having that course, that true north makes a lot of sense.
And I think making sure that your employees understand that and know that and respect that is extremely important. We, a few years ago, starting about 7 years ago, but fully or a little over 3 years ago, we went to a fully owned employee company. So we're a full ESOP company now for WELBRO. So, but how do you get your employees to get that and to understand that? A lot of people are like, an ESOP? What's an ESOP? I don't know what that means. So we've gone through a little bit of a marketing to our internally to our employees, so letting them know that, it's now not about, what we're making for somebody else that owns a company. It's about making it for all of us and making sure that bottom line number is reached that we need to reach so that we're all successful. And I think that also, there's a lot of people out there that want to work for a company, not just with the values and the morals that WELBRO has, but the fact that it is something that you have ownership to. You do have to, every little paperclip, everything that you push print on, everything that you do, it does cost money, and understanding that. And now you get that buy-in.
Yes.
You get that buy-in from your employees to understand that whole picture and how that whole picture works, where we all work together.
Yeah. I think kind of talking about culture, talking about core values, talking about buy-in, right? All of that plays together with what we're trying to do. So Thank you so much for coming and sharing.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This is really exciting. And I'm so blessed to be able to know you and know your company. You do terrific work and you are so well respected within this whole community.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Industry Insights. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe, comment, or even drop us a line over at rockpapersimple.com.